Welcome back to the desk. I'm Hindu Man. Joining me is going to be Taco for the final set of Europe today. It's Dignitas up against Obey. Now, before we show you that, let's look at the standings to see how these two teams look. Coming into it, Dignitas 7-1, Energy 7-3, Obey have 2 games.
With Energy nipping at Dignitas' heels, Dignitas don't really have any other option outside of bringing this set home if they want to keep that first seeding intact.
And that's the funny thing. I think Energy and technically Obey are still technically in it if they can find 2 O's everywhere, I believe. We'll get to the nitty-gritty of it eventually, but realistically, if Dignitas lose any games, there's a chance Energy could catch him, is kind of how I'm looking at this one. But Obey up against Dig. This is really interesting. We've got Dignitas who've been solid all year, I feel like, just consistent, and then you've got Obey that are making this climb right at the end of fall up the stairs.
I don't know if I would call it right at the end of fall. I think that Obey has had a couple of inconsistency moments in some of their sets where they've lost in certain situations where they probably should have wound up with victories.
That's
but
fair.
This matchup against Dignitas, I know for a fact that Obey are the least likely team to be lighthearted about this matchup.
This is probably their real last test that Obey have before they go to the placements as well, or to World Champions directly. Like, this is their last real... No, because scrims are only one thing, right, Taco? You can't get the real experience in a scrim of what it's like to play in the live game where everything's on the line and there's nothing you can do about it.
Even when you do have the experience of scrim, sometimes that tends to work against you. We've seen it happen with Dignitas before, where the team admitted we were winning every single scrim, but because we were winning every single scrim, we never had a chance to understand why we were winning those scrims, and we just went with those same default compositions. And little things like that that can factor into the gameplay overall, or at least dictate a little bit of the meta shifts that I'm certain are going to be taking place, whether it's right before those placement rounds up in this final week. I don't expect to see too many differences occurring right now, but definitely once we hit those placement stages, there's going to be a lot of shifts, I think, in the meta.
Well, outside of what happened in fall split last year, Dignitas have kind of continued the trend of what they did the year before. They've had a really solid season so far. If you think about spring, they got themselves all the way to the land, same again in summer. But when it came to fall, this is the one that's really important. I think they've just really found their groove now.
And that's the main difference, though, is Dignitas don't have to risk it all any longer. They're through to Worlds, guaranteed. We're going to see QvoFred and Trixtank on the big stage because of that bye automatically.
We've seen it once before, long, long time ago for those two. And a couple of the players on that team have been to World Championships as well. I'm not sure if Arkkyl has. Did Arkkyl make it once? I'm not sure.
No.
I think it's Arkyl's first World Championship.
Yes, it will be Arkyl's first time on the World stage. And yeah, a good correction on that, Qvo and Trixtank, because it's been a very, very long time since launch and the like.
Oh no, they did Paradigm. Or Trig, once upon a time. They got defeated by Enemy Season 2 semi-final.
Before semis.
Yeah, they got a bye all the way through and then got beat by Enemy, of all teams to lose to. I just didn't see it coming. Now, though, it's Dignitas up against Obey in this set. And QvoFred had a pretty good year for himself once again. Tail of the tape, Mercury, Naja, and I think Circuit are going to be the top 3 picks, the contested assassin picks.
You can't look away from Morrigan for a second, though. I think that both sides could benefit pretty heavily from a Mori pickup, but for me, it's been all about PrettyPriMe. I think that PrettyPrime's performances for the past couple of weeks have been outstanding.
Well, let's get into picks and bans and see if PrettyPrime's performances can continue to be outstanding. It's a big set for them here today for Obey, a real last test. They do have to face Mouse, though. A little bit later on this week, on Friday. We'll see how they do there, but the first one is going to be up against Dig, and this is, I believe this is Dig's last game of the split as well. No, I'm telling a lie, Dig has SK on Thursday too.
So Dig's last game of the split is today.
Oof, oof, oof. Athena. Yeah, you look down and don't try and smile.
What?
You try not to smile. You were very, very impressive in the smile. Morrigan, Athena, you were right about the Morrigan. Wash. Interesting. And Circuit, Mercury available, Freya available.
I feel like Freya is going to be the priority pick here. It's just, I wanted to say Morrigan, I'll be honest. I think that Morrigan could go a long way for Dignitas, especially since Zyrhoes has already showed so much preference towards that god, but Freya, not a bad second choice.
No, not really. I actually think Obey baited them into picking the Freya anyway. Although, it's going to be Odin Chernobog. I'm surprised they didn't go for Mercury here. So Dig could get Mercury as well for QvoFred. Just kind of surprised by it. It's going to be Batz instead, interestingly enough.
I like that Obey had this Odin though to try and shift Dignitas away from wanting to buckle down on damage early on. Maybe instead Dignitas are going to lean a little bit more towards wanting to get a front line assembled that isn't going to have to get confined inside of that ring.
You're right, because they could have gone for Mercury there, Dignitas. But if they do, they've got the Odin ring to deal with. Now Obey, though, going to lock in the Zeus juice once more for PrettyPriMe in the mid lane.
It's just disgusting seeing the Zeus come out every single time for PrettyPriMe, but you can't blame Obey for wanting to run that pick back every time when you have such successful performances with it.
Now, Odin definitely flexible to the jungle or the support role. Chernobog technically flexible to the jungle, and we'll see if CaptainTwig ends up going with that. We'll find out as the draft continues. But we have seen it before. Ooh, and Rama will be banned away by Obey, trying to limit Arkkyl's god pool, as Mercury will be taken off the table now by Dignitas at the right time to do so.
I think that was definitely the right direction to head in, because you can never tell whether this Odin is going to be for solo, support, even the jungle role, but Erlang gives us a little bit of a better idea that that's probably going to be, I think it's Erlang jungle.
Oh yeah, I meant Odin support, that's what I was going.
Odin support?
Yeah.
Well, iRaffer is a little bit more aggressive. I could see the Odin, but knowing that Terra is going to be in that solo lane role, I think that Odin might be preferred for Obey in the solo lane.
Okay, just to deal with Terra and the fact that their bombs clear it quickly, so rotations. Oh, Baron Samedi, so it's still flexible for the whole roster of Obey. Obey have pretty damn good team fight, I will say, although backline peel is a little bit lackluster on Obey's comp. If they're going in, they're going to go in hard here.
I think that that's exactly what Obey want to do, though, because when you go for Odin Zeus, you're already alerting the entirety of Dignitas. We're executing inside of the cage, and that's it. If we miss out on our chance for kills, then we're just going to look for a reset off of the disengage from possibly Baron.
Dignitas, though, looking at their squad, as you guys get to choose at home who you think will win. Who do you think will win? Taco?
Looking at the way this entire fall split has been, I'd probably have to lean towards Dignitas, but I love Obey's composition.
I think they're both good compositions. I just think it's about Batz more than anything else. And who the heck is going to be in the support and solo lane for Obey? They're the real stories there. The casters are standing by, though, for game one. It's Dignitas up against Obey.
Thanks, Hindu. Thanks, Taco. Moving into the final set here. Dignitas against Obey.
I would like to interrupt you, Finch. My eyes are closed, and I need you to verify that.
Okay.
I'm going to guess where everything is for Obey.
Okay, go ahead.
Odin support, Erlang jungle, Baron solo.
That's correct.
Man, I'm sick.
I mean, all right. He did it for whatever value that gives you.
My eyes were closed.
I think that's very likely where those things were going.
Well, they didn't know on the desk, did they?
Yeah, I mean, the desk was right that it was up in the air. It could have been either one of them, yes.
Perfect emblem used by iRaffer. Shell actually expended by Trixtank as well, as iRaffer just beating on Arkkyl right now with a big old spear.
Only had a golden blade, right? Am I right? iRaffer trying to lock him down, but the hammer a little bit too good. He has the jump to allow him to reposition. It looks like Dig should be able to defend their purple buff.
Yeah, but they lost the majority of that minion wave, and they don't get purple right now.
That's true.
Which is the big deal. iRaffer still a bit too weak, I think, to go in and contest right away, though he does have a health pot and a Baron's Brew working, so he'll be able to stay healthy enough. But I really like that play from iRaffer. Delays the duo lane of Dignitas.
You know, and I talked to Ataraxia a little bit, you know, for that Esports Weekly interview, and he was saying that he felt like the whole team was reinvigorated here for fall because it's like the world split. But iRaffer really in particular, he felt like had stepped up his game. And I think that's right. There was something to be desired from their support in spring and summer. But here in fall, iRaffer has looked entirely different.
He's looked great. It's like he's been playing against Energy every week.
Right.
Which is everything Obey ever wanted from him, because he's looked very, very good against Energy since summer. But he really has looked a little bit more consistent since then, and when iRaffer is now up to speed and the rest of Obey Alliance working well together, I think Twig has looked so much better than he did before. Prime has really found his niche with these immobile mages that do a ton of damage, the Opwash, the Zeus. I like where Obey is right now. They definitely got hot at the right time. A little bit too late for them to make it into the top 2, but still, to get hot now, I mean, throughout all year, if you would have told me that I'd be feeling much more confident about Obey's chances to make it to DreamHack and get a good seed there than team rivals, I would have called you crazy. But that's what momentum does for a team, in my mind.
It absolutely does. And right now, Obey are looking great. And I really think Prime is that linchpin right now. He's the core to this Obey Alliance team looking so much better. When they're able to effectively support and play around him, it's so difficult to imagine this Obey team losing when they're firing on all cylinders. But it's that way for a lot of them. When Dig is executing perfectly, they look unbeatable. Same for Energy. Mouse, apparently, when they're executing perfectly, look unbeatable. So, I mean, it's so hard to tell right now. There's so many good teams. I just love watching a good Smite like this.
I've got good news for you, Finch. We've got good Smite right now.
It is.
This is the good stuff. I mean, we definitely had a really good set in the last one watching Mouse play that well. But this was the headliner today for a reason.
Yeah. And it's not going to be for, who actually goes where so much. This is for third place for Obey, and Dignitas trying to confirm first, right? Obey want to be able to try and finish a little bit ahead of rival, improve their seeding when they're actually in those placement stages. This game matters a lot to both these teams very much.
I believe that the first place in placements also gets a bye right away.
I think so, yes.
That is huge if Obey's able to get that. Is another horrific emblem used by iRaffer. It's just to delay the duo lane from going to check their own purple, because the back camp bandit actually walks all the way from the right to left and strips away the purple this time around.
Twig was able to grab it. He's got the round shield and the tier 1 boots. He hasn't really been able to move any further along in either of those just yet. But he has a little bit of extra movement speed helping him move around, as opposed to if he'd gone all the way into Berserkers right away, which I imagine he wants to finish as soon as possible.
Berserkers definitely just amplified Erlang Shen's jungle capabilities. He was popular there before Berserkers came out, but really has risen in popularity since Berserkers. It's just something cheap that allows him to keep his power spike going, that synergizes very well, at least for now, with the double procs off the dog, but
right.
You expect Erlang Shen to be a little bit worse. Earth
and Fury and Fear No Evil committed onto Xaliea, but he's A-OK. In fact, lands the wrap it up, but QvoFred able to avoid getting caught inside the tower, jumps away, and Xaliea, after absorbing 2 ultimates, is A-OK.
And healthier than anyone who came and tried to hit him.
Yeah.
That's what going under tower will do for you. Life of the party was down, forced out by Variety earlier on, and that's the only reason Qvo even considers that play, but it's still just not enough to bring down the Baron quite yet. That Guardian's Blessing helping them out in that regard, just giving them a little bit of extra tankiness.
And I think they had the right idea, as you said, because of the window that was opened by the Life of the Party. But Xaliea was just too far back. It was going to be very difficult underneath the tower to be able to catch him out. This blue buff invade could be risky. A lot of Dignitas are nearby, and I don't know if Twig and Xaliea recognize it. Twig is able to strip the buff and make it into the mink form to run away, but the root lands on both. Life of the Party now available to try and pull them all back in, but Twig and Xaliea still running.
Twig's got that heal coming, and so is iRaffer. He has the cage. Prime here as well. Lightning Storm dropped, but not quite enough damage to get a kill.
That's crazy that this is turned around for Obey. That looked like a situation where the collapse was certainly going to be on and they were going to fall, but they get the invade and they get away without really expending much. I think Twig might have had to use the beads. Xaliea did drop the ult, but that's fine.
Couple ultimates for sure, but Trixtank being level 4 is the biggest deal there, and that goes back to the invade by CaptainTwig earlier to strip away the purple. If they get that, I think Trix is sitting at level 5 and is able to get that ultimate off, in Draconic Corruption in that spot, I think would have netted 1, if not 2 kills.
Definitely a good chance for them, but I like the aggression we're seeing around this solo lane, right? Dignitas should not allow this Baron, I think, to freely make it to the late game. And very often we kind of see that, right? Not much attention paid to the Baron. I understand. It's very hard to kill him when he has the Life of the Party available, if he can land the heal and the movement speed. But I think there's some opportunity to punish these Barons a little bit more.
I agree with you. I think Terra's a good start in that she punishes immobile gods. She has forever. Certainly the case still. And Baron is an immobile god. So I like the Terra matchup in the solo lane. Getting that extra teamfight presence and a bit of healing for your own side is also really key. I do think that the Hun Batz not quite as good as, say, something like, I don't know, a Nemesis of just walking in, ulting you, and killing you pretty easily.
Right.
But still a very good pick for punishing that solo lane and force Xaliea to pick up Purification Beads, which are just coming up. But that does limit his ability to lose gold under tower, play it slow in the lane, and not miss too much via use of teleport.
That's right. He can't back in as freely. We're having a lot more of these types of matchups, right? Like Mage and Guardians. Playing Warriors over there almost feels like Facebook is your main social media nowadays. It's like it's people are elsewhere, it feels like.
You're behind the times.
Yeah, doesn't it feel that way? Like, where are the... Warriors are still good. Play more Kakala and Hercules over here. It's just so much of these Guardians and Mages, they're so strong over here now.
It really is Baron that I think did the work of it was kind of the final fatal push onto the Warriors to get them out of the lane. Because Hercules, I mean, you think, yeah, Herc's going to do great against Baron. He It just plucks him and you kill him instantly. But Baron's poke is so good, and he stays so healthy because of Consigned Spirits, and it's very difficult to play around that.
Mid Harpies have some contest. Good damage comes out, but it's Twig who finds the knockup after the taunt that comes as well. Lightning Storm committed from Prime, but there's no lockdown. Dignitas able to jump away relatively easily. Ataraxia almost finds the root, but Zyrhoes barely makes it out.
Variety's going to beat Xaliea here. It's on his team side of the map, so he'll root down CaptainTwig. Big stun, but beads are there. Xaliea around the back. Welcome to the party, Zyrhoes.
Finds first blood, and Prime happy to join him, taking down Variety as well. All 5 members of Obey Alliance standing tall. 2 kills in the middle lane. Variety and Zyrhoes going to have to take a seat.
That Xaliea just barrel-stuffed Zyrhoes with life of the party. Walked up right behind him and opened the coffin right on the back of his head. I mean, Zyrhoes without ultimate, even with purification beads there, is totally dead. Good decision by him to hold on to the beads. And Gold Fury's going to go down for Obey Alliance, and that's going to give them the first lead of the game. Just look at the gold differential in that team fight recap. 72, not quite as good unless you're a Delta Marine, and a lot of gold on the other side for Obey.
That's right, about almost 1,000 gold disparity. Realize 72 effectively was a 0. It was so little, really, for Team Dignitas. Now it's a huge fight for Obey, and I love how they capitalize on that window so cleanly. All 5 of them that were there, they got those picks out giving up too much. They can go right to Gold Fury. Then they send out some zoning presence as well, grab the objective. Now Obey with a small advantage off being able to find that kill in mid. In fact, we can go back and take a look at it real quick, Ryan, at exactly how they were able to grab it.
Xalia's rotation was perfect. He gets all the way around the back, and like I said, he just walks up right behind Zyrhoes, and yoink, gets that kill pretty easily. The cage was perfect. iRaffer was very patient with the cage, and the cage isn't great against Dig's Dig's overall lineup. You're basically looking to cage Zyrhoes without ultimate, Arkkyl without ultimate, and Variety. And iRaffer holds it despite the Living Nightmare, the Lightning Storm, the 9 turns Blessing. I mean, 3 ultimates used before the cage, and then as soon as Variety shows up, the very second Variety is in the fight, cage comes down from iRaffer. So really good patience from him, and I'm sure some frustration for Variety. They're like, oh, they use all their ults, huh? What about this Odin cage that kills me for free?
And there's a lot of pressure on iRaffer to be essentially perfect with the cage, right? Because Obey has some good control tools, but they don't have a ton unless Xalia's in the fight as well, and he's able to kind of cover that up. The taunt, the knockout is very good from Twig, but not nearly as easily applicable as some of the options Dignitas have in these fights. So iRaffer timing that cage perfectly really is going to be critical for them, because they've got all the damage you want in the back end between Prime and Ataraxia, but that setup has to be there.
Twig is definitely the main setup dude, and really the idea is Twig only needs to control one, because the way Zeus works, he kind of brings control to everyone else as long as he can hit his primary target. So as long as Chain Lightning hits the target that CaptainTwig is CCing right away, that's going to slow the entire opposition of Team Dignitas. And for that reason, I really wouldn't mind a Gem of Isolation, because it gives you some more pseudo-control than you really have in this composition, especially when Chain Lightning should be so guaranteed in these fights.
iRaffer locks down Zyrhoes, but he's essentially alone here, trying to see if he can bait anything out, but Zyrhoes not biting. Holds onto the beads and the ultimate. I love that presence of mind, but Variety needs some help over here in solo lane. There will be none. CaptainTwig gets the 3rd kill for Obey.
When you go Voidstone early on, it leaves you open to a gank like that, and Twig with Berserker's Shield, as I said, it just gives him that extra little bit of time to be that really, really powerful fighter in the early game, while also not making him super vulnerable in the 1v1. So good understanding of his power spike and good timing on the gank.
Not really much that Variety could do there as well, especially with some attention being shown in mid. You might even forgive yourself for not expecting there to be action as Horrific Emblem comes out. Into the wall goes Ataraxia to try and avoid the Fatal Evil, and it's Zyrhoes who's isolated. PrettyPriMe finds him with the Zeus Juice, puts him down, no problem.
That's exactly what I was just talking about. You don't need a lot of control. You just need control on one person, and Prime will insta-kill that person. And that's twice now that Zyrhoes been hit by an Erlang taunt and not insta-beads to prevent the knockup afterwards. He had ultimate and beads up in that spot and didn't use either one. Zyrhoes has got to be a little bit quicker on the relics if he wants to survive that kind of burst.
And I just praised his patience a moment ago when it was iRaffer alone kind of trying to bully him out in mid, and he was very cautious through that. But this time, it wasn't that same situation. There were clearly more members of Obey around. Clearly there was going to be danger and follow-up, and Zyrhoes got to be a little quicker on it.
You'll never panic beads if you don't beads at all.
That's true, right? Yeah, I'll always have them.
That's right.
It's sort of like I have this weird thing about on Christmas with presents where I don't like to unwrap them because the box could be anything.
Right.
But once you unwrap it, even if it's what you want, it's just one thing.
It's true.
I have a weird thing about that.
That is kind of weird, though. I think that you should just open it.
Yeah, and be happy that it's what I wanted.
Right.
Instead, I open it
I mean, if you open it and it sucks, then, like, I guess I get it. But, you know, just understand, Finch, the spirit of Christmas is less about opening the presents and more about giving the presents.
Nah, man. Your boy's all about getting. It's for me. What am I getting? And I agree.
Finch, what's number one on your Christmas list this year?
For this year? Oh, I don't know. I'm actually relatively happy. I'm pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm doing all right.
I guess I'm not getting you a Christmas present.
I'm also like an adult, and I buy most of my things myself now.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
not like
I
when I was
feel
a
that.
kid.
I want some shoes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, your sock game's on point. You got to have some nice shoes to ride along with that.
That's what I'm saying. I think I need some new shoes. These Converse are getting a little beat up.
Chucks actually look a little bit better beat up, but that's fair.
Yeah. My dog, like, chewed the laces a little bit.
That's not cool. That's
Yeah.
not a cool.
It's like the only bad thing she's ever done to my stuff, so it's fine. She's a perfect angel, and anyone who says otherwise, I hate you.
But Obey has been looking good, haven't they, throughout this early game? And would you have said that on paper? Yes, I think probably with the Odin, but Batz, once he has that ultimate, you think the mid game would kind of be his time.
Obey's mid game is also very good.
Yeah, that's fair.
Despite being up 4-0, the big thing is for Dignitas is they are down by very, very little. 1,500 gold for being down 4-0. XP differential isn't
And
big
a Gold
either.
Fury is a big chunk of that, right?
Right,
Yeah.
a Gold Fury. It was just the Gold Fury was so early, only 8 minutes in. Gold Fury, remember, gives you more gold the longer it's on the map, and so it hadn't been able to accrue a lot of value quite yet by 8 minutes, so it doesn't end up being that impactful for Obey Alliance. The next gold will be one way or the other. It will either bring Dignitas maybe even within the lead or right there with Obey Alliance, or it could really catapult Obey into the lead.
But it is telling because gold leads, experience leads, they can tell you different things like, oh, there aren't very many kills, but there's a gold lead because of repeated invades. This time, the gold lead kind of tells you that Obey have won a couple fights, right? And not that they've been repeatedly stripping farm from Dignitas, or that Dignitas had to panic too much. Even though they've looked good, this game definitely not out of reach.
Without a doubt. And even with this Divine Ruin pickup for Prime, I do really like that Divine Ruin. It's going to make variety a lot less useful in these team fights. It means that he's not getting some absurd power spike right here. It's not Book of the Dead or even something like a Shaman's Ring that makes his damage feel unmanageable at this point in the game. It's good, but it's really there for a lot of utility as well.
Yeah, Twig can afford to poke out this Gold Fury. Look how healthy he still is on the backside. They get a good banish on the iRaffer. He's down to half HP, but Twig comes in for the setup, and one more time, Zyrhoes can't make it out. Ataraxia is the follow-up this time, and the mid lane mage with beads, Aegis, and the ult is gone.
I think I said it during a minor league broadcast, but when your mid laner dies with ultimate and both relics up and does no damage in a team fight, you aren't winning that fight. It's pretty cut and dry.
Yes.
Dignitas did not win that fight. Zyrhoes has got to get a relic off there.
And that was very clean. Aside from Blink, Obey commit very little to find that kill as well. So Obey are in great shape now to take a true 5v4. Gold Fury very low, down below a quarter, and that is Obey's, well earned by the Chaos side.
I like Dignitas giving that up. It feels a little bit weird because everyone else is so healthy, even with Zyrhoes dying, and you have great ultimates like Fear to Evil and Draconic Corruption, but losing Zyrhoes is such a large percentage of your theoretical damage that you really do need to reconsider any fight without him, especially when everyone is that healthy on Obey, where, as you mentioned, they commit a Blink and an Erlang ult, two of the lower impact things that Obey could have committed in order to get that fight going. Plus, Trix doesn't have his Phantom yet. Variety ends up going Blink. I would have preferred to see Variety get his own Phantom because Variety's the one who's going to need it more often than not.
Is that Blink, Earth, and Fury?
It is Blink, Earth, and Fury is the game plan. He's trying to get right on top of Prime because Prime can't really interact with him as soon as he blinks on top. I mean, you blink, you lay down the monolith, you shatter it. It's not quick, but what is Prime going to do about it?
Right, he really can't jump away. It's Obey Alliance will not take their foot off the gas. Pyromancer is now confirmed, and they're continually forcing Dignitas to try and answer these questions, to step in and try and bully past iRaffer on this Odin, right? To try and protect Zyrhoes correctly with Twig floating around. And so far, Obey or rather Dignitas have not been able to do it.
I will say that I'm a little surprised at the lack of Blink by iRaffer in this game because, like I said, you're basically looking for variety and you're looking for Zyrhoes or Arkkyl without ultimates, and without Blink to close the gap to follow them and chase them afterward after they use an ult, it might be difficult for that to be a realistic thing.
Nice turnaround hammer from Trix. Should keep him out of danger, but he wants to stick around and defend this red buff. He's got some backup coming in the form of Zyrhoes as well as Arkkyl, but the red buff already completed. Now, it might not be too big a deal if they keep playing like the way they are, right? Which is kind of like they walk up to the door and they knock and they say, come answer it. Then Dignitas kind of have to come into them, and then maybe it's okay. iRaffer will just cage them when they come.
You're right. I am just worried that it won't always be that way.
That's true.
Where it's going to eventually be Zyrhoes and Qvo blinking on you and knocking down your door before you're raising the hand to knock and they kick it down in your face. That is the worry now, I think, if you're Obey.
No, that's a good point. And for now it might work, but we'll see if they can keep it going later. It might not matter. Maybe if they get far enough ahead, iRaffer can just walk in as he's been teamfight focused. But he's able to catch Zyrhoes one more time, who's still very patient. He understands it's just iRaffer here and there's nothing to worry about. But now Prime brings in some damage and the ult comes out.
So at least you force out Valkyrie's discretion. iRaffer, before his ultimate, was a little bit wonky because I don't know that Prime communicated that he was going to pick up red, and iRaffer, thought that Prime was right behind him. That time Prime went to pick up red, it looks like, but still was able to get there in time to at least force out Zyrhoes' ultimate. But I did notice one thing, and that's that attack speed reduction while in that Odin cage is really going to affect Zyrhoes if he's going for a more burst-oriented build. No rings for him yet. He's got Polynomicon working towards an Obsidian Shard. So that, 40% attack speed reduction is going to really hurt him in the midst of that cage.
That's a ton. And not even just Zyrhoes, he can catch Arkkyl as well. It'll be a nightmare for him. And clearly,
even Qvo.
With the Fafnir, and they're trying to kind of facilitate that attack speed with that Coerce, which is what he can often do into the double auto attackers, it's going to be made even that much worse.
What does it look like when Trix in Dragon form has his attack speed slowed by 60%?
He just breathes.
Does it go from to just like a slow release?
I imagine that's the key difference. Yeah.
Also, welcome to ASMR SPL.
I imagine no one enjoyed that, by the way.
I disagree. I bet you at least one person enjoyed that.
There's someone out there who's going to pretend they enjoyed it.
No, someone chuckled for that for sure. No, that was good. That was good stuff by me. Keep it up.
Nah.
Me.
Nah. Please go back to the drawing board on that one. Hey, consider it like this, right? If you were a comedian and you made an error, it's not time for you to come back yet. Still wait. Think of it like that.
So I shouldn't just show up at a stand-up show.
No, unannounced. Nah, definitely not.
And cool walk move. Out and then be confused when people boo me.
Nah, not the play. Absolutely not.
Okay.
They still appear to have control at this point. Urchin coming in for Twig, and this still feels like early enough where he can get some good value out of it. I like it in this spot where they've been aggressive. They'll definitely still find some kills. This could still be a big kind of win more power spike.
Exactly, and he's got enough damage still that his damage is relevant. And now, even the damage, he doesn't need to be doing 100-0 anymore.
Right.
Because Prime's damage is super relevant by this point. Ataraxia's damage, very, very relevant. Even Xaliea with the Spear of the Magus pickup, which I love, by the way, that he's using that level lead that he has to kind of leverage his tankiness and pick up an item that's going to really, really impact Prime's damage on these targets. Remember, it's not just Twig who has a long-range root, it's Xaliea as well. He catches Zyrhoes with that Rapid Up. How is he getting away from that damage from Prime? And that will tick and basically make Prime do true damage to the opposition at that point. So I really like that Xaliea and CaptainTwig have each built a little bit hybrid. From here on out, both should be going pure tank. I don't think that Twig needs any other damage items. I don't think that Xaliea certainly doesn't need any more damage items. Just get to the point where you can continually frontline and set up for Prime. He will do the heavy lifting for you from here.
Yeah, and if this one ends up going late, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some adjustments in those build paths too, because this works. I think like towards the end of the mid game, when you start getting into the beginning of the late game, when there's more team fighting. But at a certain point, if Prime and Ataraxia aren't doing enough damage for you, then damage is not your problem, right?
Right, so you've already lost.
Yeah, they're going to need to adjust eventually. But I think right now you're right. This is great for them as Obey force the issue one more time, start up the Gold Fury, and demand an answer from Team Dignitas.
iRaffer has Cage, and he's trying to zone, uses it to do that. Qvo blinks in, but Obey already got gold.
The objectives goes the way of Obey Alliance. Now they want the fight on the back end. Earthen Fury comes out from Variety, and iRaffer is very low. Arkkyl will remove him, but Trixtank stuck inside the Lightning Storm. It's a little bit too much. Twig barely makes it away from the airstrike, and Prime finds Zyrhoes for the double.
Quick damage coming out of Zeus, and Twig gets on the turtle shell right in time to get that big shield, and that lets him get out of some danger. Again, Zyrhoes dies with relics up again. That is 4 deaths for him. At least 3 have been with him with relics up. That time he used these ultimate, at least, was able to do some damage. But Obey get the Gold Fury. Raffer's using that cage not as a fight tool, but as a zoning tool. And that means that QvoFred initiation gets a 0 follow-up whatsoever. And after killing, and because they kill Zyrhoes, that makes it a lot easier for Obey to come and get this Pyro.
And this is where I want to go back to my analogy with the present, right? Where maybe, yes, I like that it could be anything in the box, but if I'm never opening it, why keep it even, right? Like, what's he saving them for?
He's not saving them for anything. I think he's just not hitting them in time. Maybe
Sure.
He's underestimating the damage. I don't think there's a valid argument to be holding Aegis in a 23-minute Gold Fury fight, which could easily determine the outcome of the game.
It ends up punishing Dignitas in this situation. Now Obey with a genuine lead, about 7,000 gold out in front to go along with their 7-1 kill lead. 8,700 experience, nearer to 9,000. The experience before too long will be meaning a little bit less, but they've got plenty of time to work with this gold lead. Nothing to worry about as red buff gets stolen yet again.
Obey not willing to commit to anything like a Fire Giant. I wouldn't mind seeing them go to a side lane and try and get a tier 2 or tier 1 tower down, knowing that the tier 1 in mid is already down and that's the only tower that they've stripped away. I think that I don't want Dignitas to be able to farm here if I'm on Obey. I want to definitely keep the pressure on them.
Yes.
I just don't know that running it down mid is where I'd want to put that pressure right now. Maybe they're waiting for some key items to be done. It looks like Prime is working on a Soul Gem.
Wow. This is great recognition. There's no one around.
Xaliea cannot hit that back. iRaffer finds out. Fire getting low, and Dignitas able to get it.
That's perfect. They just had the game sense that no one was around. Zero's up in the air. He's going to be able to fly out. Trixtank really can't do much more. Life of the party might pull in Variety, but I think Dignitas are okay paying this price.
Cage is there. Phantom is not. There is no Phantom on Dig, and indeed Ataraxia gets that kill, but Variety for Fire, I agree, is definitely it's a sale at that point. Problem is Obey is going to be able to get a lot off of that kill and the fact that Dignitas passed it back, but you called it great recognition from Dignitas that no one was going to be around. They saw Prime on the left side of the map.
Yes.
They know that Ataraxia can join, so him being there isn't that big of a deal either way. But like Ataraxia was a little bit tardy on the Living Nightmare, but maybe he wasn't sure about the total situation. Didn't want to commit to going in against 5 without iRaffer there. Good zoning from Trix also was critical.
I can 100% believe they might not have been sure because Xaliea, even as the Fire Giant was half HP, still had a back channeling. He finally broke it and sort of realized how hard they need to commit. I can't imagine what comms were like in that moment to clearly express, you know, who all we need where as soon as possible can be difficult in those kind of moments. And just Dignitas, man, they can make calls like that sometimes and absolutely cut you off. That felt like a rival Fire Giant, really. Like maybe Dignitas has had that done to them by rival and like, well, why don't we give that a try?
I mean, when you're down by this much, it's honestly even less about Dignitas getting Fire Giant themselves, but they keep it from Obey Alliance and buy themselves 5 minutes where Obey won't be enhanced and running at them with that buff. And at least they've got a fighting chance now on some of these towers, if Obey even wants to go for the towers. If I'm on Obey, I think I'm willing to let Dig farm out for 5 minutes now. Maybe I force a Gold Fury fight because our jungle fight is so nuts with Odin Zeus that it could be worth it. But now that Zyrhoes has Demonic Grip, he's 5 items deep, and if he just ever hits a relic, then we might be in trouble.
Obey certainly have the chance to move over towards Gold Fury if they'd like to. 30 seconds until it responds. Qvo has the Magai's cloak finished. So he'll have a little bit of extra safety when he wants to blink in and look for the Fear No Evils. Obey have a lot of presence here. They certainly might be trying to find someone out of position. Trixtank is forward, but nothing more going to come from that. But certainly they're going to keep this fight going.
iRaffer, too tanky to really take any relevant damage, though, even off of a hammer from Trixtank. Spirit Robe stops that hammer into knock-up combo from doing your half your health bar. That damage mitigation is really big, as well as it helps with Fear No Evil as well.
Dignitas are trying to control the space around Gold Fury as it spawns. they've got plenty of damage for it between Arkkyl and Zyrhoes if they want to get it started. Hard to believe they want to be the ones to pick a fight right around now, but certainly it looks like they are. Gold Fury has been leashed now by Obey, and they can start moving in.
I definitely think that Obey needs to be here and contesting. I know that Dig has fire, but the lead is still there for Obey Alliance.
But they don't want to get into a poke war against the Fire Giant. That's where the biggest difference, I think, comes in, really, is if they allow them to fall back, heal from Terra and the buff. And Dignitas are going to play exactly that strength. Half health on the Gold Fury already, but they leash it. They have the hammer onto Twig. The wall stun there as well, but no commit.
Gold Fury pulled again. iRaffer had to back, so I'm surprised that Dignitas is so scared of this fight. Either iRaffer backed and it's a 5-on-4, or iRaffer's half health and it's 4.5 on 5.
Variety blinks in, Earth and Fury on everyone, Lightning Storm at his feet. That is going to catch Trixtank, but it's QvoFred who finds Ataraxia. Variety takes down Prime as well. Xaliea is also low. He gets up onto the coffin and finds the stun on Zyrhoes, but just how much work is it as Airstrike comes in and Arkkyl finds one more.
Wow, what a turnaround from Dignitas. I mean, they were
Crazy,
all but
man.
in the grave just 5 minutes ago, and that Fire Giant call, and now they're going to get a tier 2. Gold Fury should go down pretty easily after this, unless they want to just push for Phoenix. This is a bit risky because they don't have any minions here, but they might be able to get it anyways. There's only Twig and iRaffer. Yeah, this left side Phoenix is dead.
Yeah, they're not even going to come over and defend, so this certainly has been won by Team Dignitas. They'll grab the left side Phoenix. And you're right, Ryan, this is a huge turnaround for them. And 1 point down, 9,000 gold and experience. A huge deficit at the 20-23 minute mark, but that play around the Fire Giant, even though they gave up a tier 2 on right, it kept them so close. And Obey didn't seem to know what to do next. Then it was Dig who forced the fight.
It just, in that spot, Prime and Ataraxia are too close together. They both get hit by the exact same initiation. I mean, take a look at their relic timers. Beads and Agates are within a second of each other, basically, for both players. They both got hit by the same Fear No Evil, and then Trixtank is right on top of him, Zyrhoes damage is right on top of him. You can't be that close together in a jungle fight as the mid and ADC. You can't be that close together in a lane fight as the mid and ADC. Plus, Dignitas is always going to be at a disadvantage when they take spread out fights, but by just running at Obey, it really takes Living Nightmare out of the question. It makes it a lot easier. Look at this.
The Fire Giant, though, is incredibly low. Lightning Storm burns it quickly as iRaffer drops down the cage. So now an answer back from Obey Alliance and a chance for them to aggress. Remember, Trixtank is still down for another 5 seconds. They found him in the jungle. Taunt pulls Zyrhoes back in. He has no relics to use this time. Doesn't even have an ultimate. Xaliea is the one that eradicates the mid lane mage. Obey have turned things right back around.
Okay. All right. So we see what you did, and that was pretty good. So I think I'll try it this time around. Trix getting picked is really the key moment in that fight that allows Obey to keep pushing forward. They do have a Fire Minion wave to worry about on left, but the bigger concern is they don't have beads for Ataraxia or Prime. Look at how far back Prime is right now. He is horrified of a Fear No Evil.
He doesn't know where QvoFred is. He's on the left-hand side, as you said, and ready to jump right on in. And I don't think they can do this. It's not easy enough to try and siege in against this comp, and they have to worry about the minions pouring in. They're waiting on another wave to come in. They're going to try one more time.
Arkkyl doesn't have the Aegis, but a big stun coming from Variety. Now, mid-Phoenix still pretty healthy. Ataraxia going in, but here comes Quvo.
Fear No Evil drop down at their feet. CaptainTwig goes back into it and gets another tick of the fear. The cage might create some space, but Arkkyl finds the shot. Xaliea gets Variety in trade, but still a win for Dig. The Phoenix is very healthy.
Variety falls, but Zyrhoes has respawned, so Obey Alliance can't continue to try and push forward. Good engagement. Again, Dignitas is really timing the blinks very well.
Yes.
Variety and Quvo a second off of blinking in, one after the other. So Variety blinks in, hits Earth and Fury first, which is critical in this combo because what is Fear No Evil? It's lots of little ticks of damage, and that's what Earth and Fury wants the most, which is ways to pop those stones very, very quickly and get big damage onto the opposition. Plus, you're giving yourself damage mitigation, you're lowering the output of the enemy team's damage without even factoring in the healing. Good work between Quvo and Variety.
And I can't believe I'm surprised at how big of an impact the Blink ult from Variety is really having, because it's hard to think of a better team fighting ultimate in the game than Earth and Fury, and Variety has dropped it perfectly in 3 fights in a row, and every one of those fights have at least gone even for Dig, if not very much in their favor. It's so much extra damage when it's put at the very beginning of the fight onto all the relevant members of Obey. That Blink has been, it's worked for them perfectly.
Earth and Fury is a really good ability, so the more people you hit with it, the better. And the easiest way to do that is via Blink, because they won't be ready for it. Certainly has worked, and this Odin cage, I think, has really been lackluster so far from iRaffer.
It has to be perfect.
It has to be perfect. There's so few good targets for it. I mean, it's the point where Dignitas doesn't even get a Phantom for it, and you still can't get a lot of value out of it. Variety's dead in that Odin cage right there. With or without Odin cage, he's getting hit by life of the party. I just don't love this Odin selection. I think it was a little bit too early from Obey Alliance, but it did warp Dignitas' draft, and maybe that was the intent all along. It keeps Quvo off of Mercury. It makes certain picks look a little bit less attractive. And even if it doesn't seem to be doing that much work in-game, there is value in that alone.
Still a little bit more time on this Fire Giant for Obey, and they're going to be pushing down the middle lane. They've got CaptainTwig over there on the Erlang, and Zyrhoes, actually, who's rotated over to defend there, and the rest of Obey can start pushing down duo. They've got about one more wave worth of time, but they're not even going to try and use it. Obey are backing off. There's stuff in the jungle to get. Red buff about to come up, Gold Fury there, but this Phoenix Siege is done.
Again, it's 5 seconds on Prime's beats, 4 seconds on Ataraxia's beats, so they don't want to stick around and potentially get double blinked on once again. It's tough because when you get to the Phoenixes, it's one of the things that makes Phoenix Siege so difficult, is that ADCs and mages need to be close enough together. They don't really have a choice. There's only so much space in a given fight. So Fear No Evil will basically cover the entire lane from the Phoenix chokehold.
Right.
So every time Prime and Ataraxia are losing beads, you're basically looking for Ataraxia, at least I am, to react to the blink sound and get into the wall with Into Darkness so that he can hold the relics and wait it out. But by that point, the rest of Dignitas would be surging forward, and he might find himself in a spot where he can't really safely come out of the wall. It's a catch-22. It's what makes Hunbat so good. It's why Fear No Evil has been a relevant ultimate in competitive Smite for literally ever, and it will continue to be for literally ever, because it's very difficult for your carries to play around.
Up to Obey to try and find another way in. They're going to try and fight around this Fire Giant. And this could be it. Fear No Evil is certainly still strong in the jungle, but perhaps not as strong when it's not in such a known choke point where they're definitely going to be. Perhaps a chance for Obey Alliance to catch them a bit out of sorts, as Pyromancer already below half HP. FG has just rejoined us on the map.
There's just more variance with Fear No Evil in the jungle. If you find the whole team in a tiny little corridor, then it's way better than in lane, but there are opportunities for the mage and the hunter to spread out a little bit more in the jungle, so you won't get that guaranteed double carry.
This is more than zoning. iRaffer has truly jumped in. He takes a couple shots, but they're not going to be able to follow it up any further. They now head back towards the Fire Giant pit, and Dignitas obviously do not want to give this one up for free. They can definitely fight back in. Twig and iRaffer going to be the zoning, and iRaffer has a couple ways to use the cage. It can just block them out or try and lock in for a pick.
Variety first one in, and there's the cage right away. Ultimate down from Prime as well. Variety's getting low, but here's the blink right onto the back. Prime under siege from QvoFred, and Variety's still healthy enough.
Quvo's done his job, though. He's blinked into the backline and forced reactions from both carries. Now an attempt for the disengage. They've grouped up a bit, but the punishment is no longer here from Obey Alliance. The knockup is there on the Zyrhoes. He still has the ultimate available to regroup. Xaliea looking for a big ult over the wall, but can't lock him down. Ataraxia gonna come flying in as well with a living nightmare. No root, but Obey want to keep it going.
Arkkyl goes the other way to try and split Obey Alliance, and it worked! PrettyPriMe is the first one down. Twig doing what he can on the front side, but Zero still up. Quvo brings down the enemy jungler. Arkkyl does fall a little bit too isolated from the rest of the squad, but what looked like a crazy play from Arkkyl ends up working out for Dig.
Dignitas ended up very low on the back end, but there was no way for Obey to make it in to punish them. So that's 2 for 1 in Dignitas' favor. They defend, and you got to think that it starts with QvoFred once again being able to get to the backside. Yes, iRaffer cages in Variety. Clearly that's the plan, because Lightning Storm is there too. But if QvoFred can just blink to the carries every fight, it's going to be very hard to win.
At this point in the game, just Lightning Storm and Detonate damage is not enough to kill Variety.
No.
And so if they are going to commit Odin Cage and Lightning Storm, and potentially more, and not kill Variety, it's going to be hard for Obey to win the fight afterwards. Fire Giant goes down for Dig. That'll be their second of the game, a little bit quicker out of base because they were closer to their base and were able to start their backs a little bit faster. But the ability to... Variety's not getting Phantom here is obviously intentional. You don't accidentally not buy a relic. But it's they want him to get caged, especially solo. If Variety is the only one getting caged, QvoFred's job is then to blink on Prime and blink on Ataraxia and make sure that they aren't able to just hit Variety while he's in that cage. As long as those things are happening, and Trixtank is able to support Qvo, because normally the play is Variety gets in there to support Qvo with a blink of his own, but in that fight, Trix leaps forward with Qvo to try and make sure that that Obey doesn't just turn onto QvoFred. Then that fight goes a lot easier for Team Dignitas, because Variety's absorbed 2 big ultimates, the 2 biggest AoEs on the enemy team. Zyrhoes and Arkkyl have been under very little siege from the damage dealers. It's really only CaptainTwig on the back line they have to worry about. And the back line from Obey is disrupted simultaneously. So the adjustment that I think Obey Alliance needs to make is drop the cage onto Variety. If they don't engage right away, I think you do need to have Prime step up and drop the Lightning Storm, but then it should just be an immediate pull back. You anticipate the blinks coming from Qvo and from Trix running forward at you, and I think that you can isolate and kill Qvo before he gets out.
Now it's time for Obey Alliance to try and play a little bit of defense here, Ryan. They have not had to do a ton of this yet. They've been, for the most part, the aggressors. And I'd like to see Prime really try and be patient with this Lightning Storm and this defense. If he can find a big one, it's a huge win for Obey Alliance here, as Raffer takes half his HP from the knockup and from the stun. He's on his way back to the fountain to try and heal up.
That might be Left Phoenix, just like that, with Raffer back in base. I mean, Xalia's here, but he's still a mage at the end of the day. No real commit, though, from Dignitas, surprisingly enough. Qvo's going to lose the Magi's Blessing in the mid to CaptainTwig, and that's a big deal. He really is relying on that to be able to immune enough CC to get away with these aggressive blinks.
That's true. That's why we said how important Raffer's cage was earlier on, because Obey don't have a ton of control still. They had some great tools for it early on that were enough, like for single target, but in these bigger team fights, it definitely is a bit more glaring of an issue. As Trixtank jumps right on in, and why not? He's tanking, not even dropping Draconic Corruption. Now he gets pulled back in, and now comes out the ult.
Oh, wow. Variety blinked right into life of the party. It was able to take it forward. Trixtank, Raffer gets blown up on the back end. Somehow killed Ataraxia as well. He had everything up.
And this is a huge fight. Zyrhoes now with a triple kill. Takes down Raffer, Ataraxia, and Xaliea. Only Prime and Twig left to defend. That's a quadra kill that comes out for Zyrhoes. Twig now pinned inside the fountain. Zyrhoes on the Freya, putting in work late game. Dignitas, 39 minutes, make it 40. Gonna take the game.
Who cares about relic usage, dude? Y'all mind if I just kill everyone late game anyways? Arkkyl gets the full deicide. And Dignitas battle back from the literal brink. I mean, that game, it looked like Obey Alliance was going to run over them, but that Fire Giant call
that was it.
Is really what turns the whole tide of that whole game.
It was just great recognition. No one from Obey was around. They didn't know how to respond to it in time, and the Fire Giant was the catalyst, and the real problem was how they responded on that Gold Fury afterwards, right? They didn't know how to take that fight, and Dignitas punished them for it very well.
Again, Prime and Ataraxia just a little bit too grouped up, and there in the last fight, I mean, we were really talking poorly about Zyrhoes when he doesn't use his relics. At least that's 9, 10, 11 minutes in. Yeah. When you lose a fight because your ADC doesn't use their relics, 40 minutes in, you don't just lose that fight. Most of the time, you lose the game.
And that's a bit of a heartbreaker, as Obey looked great. Make sure you let us know who your MVP was for that game in the poll in Mixer chat. And I'm going to get you back over to the desk so they can break down game one.
Thanks so much, Cass. This 40-minute match that goes back and forth. Obey had moments in that game.
Yeah, Obey had plenty of moments throughout that game, and the same could be said for Dignitas also. I think it was a relatively back-and-forth action between these two teams. Despite the kill counts being rather low, that was mostly due to both sides just having really solid disengages.
Yeah, and that's the key, is disengaging at the right moment and not staying too long. And some of those fights that happened were because of those teams trying to disengage and other teams trying not to let them happen. Time and time again, even Arkkyl lost a life there too. Low player damage too, 23,000 player damage in 40 minutes isn't huge.
I actually really liked what Arkkyl did towards the very end, though, leading up to that final shove. And Arkkyl managing to actually split apart the team fights in the right-hand lane possibly saved Dignitas from fully wiping there, because while Arkkyl was a little bit too far ahead for Dignitas to save, it also meant that Obey were too far away to continue trying to pressure Dignitas.
Well, Arkkyl is going to get the MVP vote as well from the fans in Mixer chat here for his performance overall. Did the most damage on the team. He's just had a very good year, has Arkkyl. Let's just put it that way.
Sometimes all it really takes is a couple of good team fights, and that was just the case here for Dignitas. So right there at the very end, I love also the placements of a lot of those Fear No Evils, just causing so much interrupt from Obey when they're clearly wanting to charge in, they're clearly wanting to just drop the Odin cage, drop the Zeus ultimate, but just couldn't find the opening because of QvoFred nonstop spamming them with these Fear No Evils.
Tell you what, these are good games for a good old scrap between the two. Now, I will say as well, because Dignitas won that game, that is guaranteed now that Energy go. There was a little bit of a chance that if Obey clean swept, there was a potential tiebreaker situation. We'd have to go into that now. Obey definitely going to be in the placements.